Trace element. R.W. Bell. Chapter 14 Dark Machine. Cross forced himself to gather his faculties and think, but the urge to flee was too high. Cross knew that if the drone had locked onto him, there would be very little likelihood of escaping the eye in the sky, but still, he ran. There was a chance that the hovering hunter hadn't picked up his scent. There was a chance that its pattern of life algorithms hadn't identified Cross in the crowd yet. There was a chance that anyone watching its video feed hadn't yet recognized Cross. With all the advancements in artificial intelligence software, Cross knew there was still no equal to the human eye and to an analyst's ability to discern patterns in randomness. He wished now that he hadn't run from the tower. His rapid movement through the masses at the park would stand out to anyone reviewing the footage leading up to this present time. He figured that only a few minutes had passed since the thugs had reported his evasion at the old ArcelorMittal orbit tower, beckoning the aerial wolf's appearance. Cross realized their true role. For EV3 was less security guard, and more likely akin to the U.S. Army's Roswell firemen. They were the ex-military mercenaries that supported EV3's lone Centauri. He knew he would be no match against their combat training. The urgency to avoid a hand-to-hand engagement compelled him to advance. Cross hoped he had shaken them from his tail, but now he had an even more formidable adversary giving chase. The scenario felt like a checkmate. He crossed Westfield Avenue as he stared at the Centauri saucer above him. He was retracing his steps back to Stratford Station, the same way he had come earlier. He was on autopilot while he tried to formulate a plan of action. He knew the surveillance craft was here for him. It had to be the Centauri from the hangar at EV3. He was astonished that EV3 had deployed such a resource to pursue him. Kane's threats were far from idle. If it wasn't made clear by Dante's pursuit of Cross, it was clear now. Kane would stop at nothing to ensure Cross was apprehended. Kane wanted his secret known to no one outside of his sphere of control. Cross was in disbelief that Kane would send the craft in broad daylight, and over a civilian area. Things were most certainly different here in the UK. Citizens in the UK were accustomed to the prevalence of public cameras. Here, cameras were at every intersection, at every shopping complex. There was probably even ubiquitous coverage in the public transit system, but did Kane and EV3 have access to those video feeds? Maybe not. Why else deploy the aircraft? US law guarded against citizen surveillance and the use of military assets domestically, but he wasn't in the US, and EV3 wasn't the military. Whether Kane was acting on his own or in conjunction with the mod, Cross was sure that Kane had the influence to broker any deal that was necessary for approval, or to seek forgiveness after the fact. Kane would be exonerated or celebrated for using the aircraft for hunting Cross. Like his expensive toy, Kane was a driven, unflinching, calculating machine. Cross felt alone in this alien land. He felt isolated. He wanted to run. He was a man-cub alone in a concrete jungle with Shere Khan on his tail. He wanted to be home. He needed to call home. He needed help. He needed shelter. Cross bore to the right at the outdoor court at the center of the shopping complex. He passed into an area of the mall with a high covered ceiling. He lost sight of the UAV. Fear kept him from clearing his mind. He needed to think. Under the structure over his head, he couldn't see his hunter above. Maybe it couldn't see him either, Cross thought. Underground. He needed to be underground. Underground he could think. He emerged from cover. It saw him again. Of that he was sure. Cross knew that at 2,000 feet above him, the craft's motion would be hard to gauge, especially while he was on the move, but he felt it following him. The Centauri loomed overhead. Cross faced an open pedestrian bridge over tracks. There was no more cover. He pointed his body toward a yellow sign for the underground, Central Line. He forced himself not to break into a run. He passed above the overground train tracks that he had arrived on earlier. Those he knew would take him back to Waterloo Station south of the Thames, but along surface tracks, not underground. He continued down a cascade of stairs to the Stratford Station. Tube platform. Finally, thought Cross, some cover. It was little solace. He knew that if the drone were indeed tracking him, it would have seen him traverse the pedestrian bridge and enter the tube platform. He scanned his comband for payment to enter the public transit system. Cross quickly studied a map of the tube. He would transfer at the next stop, Mile End Station, onto the District Line. Yes, the Hammersmith and City Line also ran through Mile End. A change there might at least introduce a note of uncertainty for any algorithm trying to predict his destination. He followed a green line, with his eyes along the map through Embankment Station, and then to Westminster. His tourist meanderings of the previous weeks had familiarized him with these popular stops near his hotel. How long ago that all felt now. The subway car arrived. He heard the calming yet directive voice announce to the departing passengers. Stratford Station. Mind the gap. Next stop, Mile End. Cross-boarded. Powerful electric motors propelled Cross forward into an uncertain future. As the tube passed through Tower Hill Station, Cross saw advertisements on the station walls flash by. Visit the Crown Jewels at London Tower, one said, and another advertised a 25-minute walk across the iconic Tower Bridge to the historic Shakespeare Globe Theatre on the river's south bank. Shakespeare, thought Cross, recalling his sordid experience. He was disgusted at himself for his failure to appreciate the human side of his search for answers. He always gravitated to the technical aspects of a problem. Engineering answers were black and white. Science and math offered solutions that were true or false, right or wrong, never insidious or deceptive.